1948, a year when history changed forever. On one side, the state of Israel was born, and on the other, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were displaced. Israelis say, if the Palestinians had accepted the UN proposal, today, two states could have coexisted peacefully. But why didn't the Arab countries accept that proposal? Why were they defeated? Why is the Palestinian crisis still unresolved? Let's turn back the pages of history and uncover the full story of the birth of Israel and the defeat of the Arabs. How the State of Israel was created by pushing the Arabs away. 2 miles north of Gaza, Palestine, is the kibbutz area. In the 1930s, Jews from Poland set up agricultural farms there. Right next to them lived Palestinian Arabs. The Arabs had been living on that land for centuries. At that time, the relationship between Muslims and Jews was fairly friendly. But in the 1930s, the Palestinians began to realize they were slowly losing their land. Jews started coming in groups and buying land. At the time of Israel's establishment, nearly 700,000 Palestinians were displaced. They thought they would return home once the issue was resolved. But Israel never gave them the chance to return. Former Israeli President Shimon said, "The Palestinians are responsible for their own situation." He said, "They made a mistake in 1947. We did not. Why should we apologize for their mistake?" Since 1897, the Jews had wanted to establish a separate state. From 1917 to 1948, Palestine was under British control. In 1917, Britain captured Jerusalem from the Ottomans. British Foreign Secretary Lord Balfour wrote a letter to Jewish leader Rothschild. This letter is known as the Balfour Declaration. It promised the Jews a homeland in Palestine. The growing anti-Jewish sentiment in Europe increased their desire for a state. In 1933, Hitler began persecuting Jews. Thousands of Jews started fleeing to Palestine. Palestinian Arabs realized their existence was under threat. They rebelled, targeting British soldiers and Jewish civilians. But the British harshly suppressed the rebellion. Divisions arose within the Arab society. Meanwhile, Jews began preparing to establish a state. Britain wanted to stay close to both Arabs and Jews. In 1939, Britain announced that 75,000 Jewish immigrants could come in the next 5 years. Jews were outraged by this decision. They planned to fight both Hitler and Britain. 32,000 Jews joined the British Army. They received military training. Later, these Jewish soldiers fought against both the Arabs and the British. During World War II, Hitler killed millions of Jews. After the war, a new reality emerged. Where would the surviving Jews go? Then U.S. President Truman wanted to quickly allow 100,000 Jews to settle in Palestine. Britain feared this would lead to civil war. Jewish armed groups began attacking British forces. Meanwhile, ships loaded with Jews started arriving from Europe. British attempts to stop them failed. International pressure increased. Britain took the issue to the United Nations. In November 1947, the UN announced Palestine would be divided into 2 states, one for Jews, one for Arabs. Jews owned only 10% of the land, but were given nearly 50%. The Arabs refused to accept this. They rejected the UN's decision. The Jews celebrated victory. The Arabs realized they had no choice but to fight. Riots broke out. Jews had secret arms factories. Their leadership was united and strong. On the other hand, the Arabs had no coordinated leadership. The Jews were already prepared for war. Jerusalem was the main objective for both sides. The UN had said Jerusalem would be under international control, but no one accepted that. In March 1948, the Jews launched counterattacks on the Arabs. Then, Palestinians began fleeing in large numbers. The brutality of Jewish groups instilled fear in the Arabs. The Palestinian resistance gradually collapsed. Jordan, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq came under pressure. They stepped in to support the Palestinians. On May 14, 1948, Britain withdrew. That night, the State of Israel was declared. Within an hour, 5 Arab countries attacked Israel. They had 30,000 troops, while Israel had 35,000. But the Arabs had no coordination among themselves. Fierce battles were fought over Jerusalem. The Israelis retreated. Their weapons ran out. Then, the United Nations declared a ceasefire. Israel then received modern weapons from Czechoslovakia. After the ceasefire, Israel resumed attacks on the Arabs. They captured one important area after another. Israel established full control over Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. The war paused with the UN's second ceasefire, but the fighting wasn't truly over. Between 1947 and 1949, 6,000 Jews were killed. They believed, if they had lost, the Arabs would have wiped them out. Israelis believe, if Palestinians had accepted the UN proposal, then today, both states could have coexisted peacefully. The lack of trust among the Arabs was the main reason for their defeat in 1948. That's what history says.